Operations in Mosul, 2016 to 2017. In the heart of northern Iraq, where the fate of the Islamic State's, ISIS, so-called caliphate was being decided, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, played a pivotal role in orchestrating one of the most consequential military operations of the decade, the Battle of Mosul from 2016 to 2017. This prolonged and brutal campaign, aimed at recapturing Iraq's second-largest city from ISIS, was not merely about restoring Iraqi sovereignty. For the IRGC, Mosul was a critical battlefield where Iran could entrench its influence, embed its proxy forces within Iraq's security architecture, and shape the post-ISIS future of Iraq in Tehran's favor. Mosul, the crown jewel of the caliphate. Mosul, a city of nearly 2 million people, had fallen to ISIS in June 2014, marking one of the most shocking moments of the jihadist group's lightning offensive across northern Iraq. The capture of Mosul gave ISIS a strategic stronghold, immense economic resources, and a powerful propaganda tool that emboldened its ranks. As ISIS declared its caliphate from the Great Mosque of al-Nuri, Mosul became the de facto capital of the group's self-proclaimed state, making it a symbol of the jihadist group's ascendancy. For Iran, the fall of Mosul posed a direct threat to its regional ambitions and the stability of Iraq's Shia-led government. A city under ISIS control provided a base from which the group could threaten Baghdad, destabilize Iran's western flank, and challenge Tehran's influence over Iraq. The IRGC recognized that recapturing Mosul was not only essential for defeating ISIS, but also for securing Iran's long-term objectives in Iraq. Qasem Soleimani, the mastermind behind Iran's strategy. As the battle for Mosul loomed, Qasem Soleimani, the formidable commander of the IRGC's Quds Force, took personal charge of Iran's role in the campaign. Soleimani, a master of asymmetric warfare and proxy mobilization, understood that Mosul's liberation would reshape Iraq's political landscape and determine who would control the country's future. Soleimani's strategy was multifaceted and carefully calibrated. He sought to deploy Iranian-backed Shia militias. The IRGC mobilized its vast network of proxy forces, particularly the Popular Mobilization Forces, PMF, or Hasht al-Sha'bi, to spearhead operations around Mosul. These militias, many of which were trained, armed, and ideologically aligned with Iran, would not only fight ISIS, but also establish a long-term Iranian footprint in northern Iraq. Secure supply lines and key corridors. The IRGC's strategy focused on securing critical supply routes around Mosul, particularly the roads connecting Mosul to Syria, which were vital for maintaining Iran's land bridge from Tehran to Beirut. Control over these corridors would ensure that Iran's proxies could move fighters, weapons, and supplies freely across Iraq and Syria. Shape the post-ISIS political landscape. Beyond the military campaign, Soleimani's goal was to entrench Iranian influence in post-ISIS Iraq by embedding Shia militias within Iraq's security forces, marginalizing Sunni political power, and ensuring that Iran's proxies held strategic positions of control in liberated territories. The role of the Popular Mobilization Forces, PMF. At the heart of Iran's strategy in Mosul was the PMF, a coalition of predominantly Shia militias that had been formed in response to a fatwa by Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani in 2014, calling on Iraqis to defend their country from ISIS. While the PMF included some Sunni and minority factions, its most powerful and influential groups were closely aligned with Iran and operated under the direct supervision of the IRGC. The IRGC-backed militias that played a leading role in the Mosul campaign included Kataib Hezbollah, a staunchly pro-Iranian militia known for its loyalty to Iran's supreme leader and its participation in Iran's proxy wars across the region. Asaib al-Haq, another Iranian proxy that had fought extensively in Syria and maintained deep ties to the IRGC. Badr Organization, one of the oldest and most influential Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, with close ties to the Quds Force. Harakat al-Nujaba, an IRGC-affiliated militia that had gained notoriety for its operations in both Iraq and Syria. The Mosul Offensive, a multi-front campaign. The battle for Mosul began in October 2016 and unfolded as a massive multi-front offensive involving Iraqi security forces, Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, the U.S.-led coalition, and Iran's network of Shia militias. While Iraqi security forces and coalition forces focused on direct assaults on Mosul, the IRGC-backed militias took charge of securing the surrounding areas and cutting off ISIS's supply lines. The IRGC's strategy was to encircle Mosul from the west, preventing ISIS fighters from escaping into Syria and ensuring that Iran's proxies controlled the key transit routes between Iraq and Syria. By positioning themselves west of Mosul, the PMF secured the strategic Tal Afar corridor, a vital link between Mosul and the Syrian border. This move was not just about defeating ISIS, it was about securing Iran's long-term geopolitical objectives by establishing control over key transit routes that would facilitate the movement of Iranian-backed forces across the region. The siege and liberation of Mosul. As the battle raged on, Iranian-backed militias played a critical role in encircling Mosul and preventing ISIS reinforcements from reaching the city. The IRGC's strategy of deploying proxy forces to secure the outskirts of Mosul allowed Iraqi and coalition forces to focus on the grueling urban combat required to retake the city. The fighting in Mosul was characterized by intense street-to-street battles, with Iraqi and coalition forces slowly pushing ISIS fighters out of their entrenched positions. The city's densely populated neighborhoods and the use of civilians as human shields by ISIS made the operation particularly challenging. However, after 9 months of fierce fighting, Mosul was finally liberated in July 2017, marking the end of ISIS's territorial control over northern Iraq. The role of the IRGC in securing western Mosul and Tal Afar. While Iraqi security forces and the U.S.-led coalition focused on retaking Mosul's urban core, the IRGC-backed PMF concentrated on securing Tal Afar and the surrounding areas, ensuring that ISIS fighters could not escape into Syria. The recapture of Tal Afar in August 2017 was a critical victory for Iran, as it cemented control over the corridor linking Mosul to the Syrian border. The IRGC's role in securing Tal Afar and the western approaches to Mosul was not just about defeating ISIS, it was about establishing a permanent Iranian presence along the Iraq-Syria border. By controlling this corridor, Iran ensured that it could maintain a land bridge that connected Tehran to Damascus and Beirut, allowing for the uninterrupted flow of weapons, fighters, and supplies to Hezbollah and other Iranian proxies. Sectarian implications. A calculated gamble. While the liberation of Mosul was hailed as a victory against ISIS, the heavy involvement of Iranian-backed Shia militias in the operation fueled sectarian tensions in Iraq. The PMF's presence in Sunni-majority areas, including Mosul and Tal Afar, was viewed with deep suspicion by Sunni communities, who feared that Iran's proxies would exact revenge and impose sectarian rule. Reports of sectarian reprisals, extrajudicial killings, and abuses by Shia militias in the aftermath of Mosul's liberation exacerbated Sunni grievances and deepened the sectarian divide. For the IRGC, however, the sectarian fallout was a calculated risk. Iran's long-term strategy was rooted in sectarian mobilization and demographic re-engineering, aimed at consolidating Shia power in Iraq and marginalizing Sunni influence. Consolidating Iranian influence in post-ISIS Iraq. The liberation of Mosul marked the end of ISIS's territorial ambitions in Iraq, but for the IRGC, it was just the beginning of a new phase of influence building. With Mosul and its surrounding areas under the control of Iranian-backed forces, the IRGC moved quickly to consolidate its gains and entrench Iran's influence in northern Iraq. The PMF, now fully integrated into Iraq's security apparatus, emerged as a parallel power structure that operated independently of Iraq's central government, but remained loyal to Iran. IRGC advisors embedded within the PMF ensured that Iran's interests were safeguarded and that Iranian-backed militias maintained control over key regions. Economic and political expansion. The IRGC's success in Mosul extended beyond the battlefield. Iranian companies and businessmen quickly moved into Mosul and the surrounding areas, securing lucrative reconstruction contracts and establishing economic footholds that would ensure Iran's long-term presence. Iranian-backed political factions leveraged their role in the Mosul campaign to gain greater influence within Iraq's political establishment, further entrenching Tehran's grip on the country. The legacy of the Mosul campaign, a strategic victory for Iran. By the time the dust settled in Mosul, the IRGC had achieved its primary objectives. ISIS had been defeated, Iran's proxy network had expanded, and Tehran's control over Iraq had deepened. The recapture of Mosul was not just a victory against jihadists. It was a geopolitical triumph that allowed Iran to reshape Iraq's security landscape, marginalize Sunni power, and establish a permanent foothold along the Iraq-Syria border, a lasting influence. Iran's grip on northern Iraq. The legacy of the Mosul campaign continues to reverberate across the region. The IRGC's success in securing northern Iraq and controlling key transit routes has enabled Iran to project its power across the Levant, ensuring that Tehran's influence remains unchallenged in post-ISIS Iraq. Through a combination of military prowess, proxy warfare, and strategic maneuvering, the IRGC transformed Mosul into a symbol of Iran's dominance and a gateway to its broader ambitions in the Middle East.